Hi there, welcome to What and Series 15, and this is number 6, and we continue to look at Genesis and chapter 26. We'll be looking today at verses 23 through to 33. Here we find that the Lord, God, re-establishes or reconfirms, I suppose is a better way to put it, the covenant to Isaac. The purpose of appearing to Isaac is to reconfirm the covenant to him. And again, the Lord tells Isaac not to fear, that God is with him and will multiply his descendants, keeping his promise to Abraham. Then we see Isaac do something that confirms for us the change in his life, that God has transformed him. That he recognized that his prosperity and power is not because of something he did, but it's because of the goodness of God to him. He finally understands that God's love for him is so great and God's goodness is so certain that he can trust God without fear. Isaac builds an altar and calls upon the name of the Lord. This is the turning point in Isaac's life. This is when the Lord truly becomes his God, and he will not fear because God is with him. And God's goodness is never ending. Now, Isaac is not the only one who recognized God's hand in his lives. The Philistines of Gerar also saw it, and they know that there is nothing they can do to stop this family's success. It is now obvious to everyone that God is going to continue to bless this family no matter what. Abimelech begins to worry. He begins to fear that Isaac may someday seek revenge for how he's been treated. And understand too that Isaac is now a 2-day journey away. But Abimelech, with 2 of his advisors, makes the journey to negotiate water and grazing rights. It's interesting. They want to negotiate water where they just took it before, to seek a non-aggression treaty with him. Isaac shows no fear upon their arrival. He knows that the Lord is with him. Isn't that a constant now in the whole story? He demands to know what they have come after, particularly after the way that he was treated. He tells it like it is. You hate me. But listen to Abimelech's words and tell me who is lying now. We see plainly that the Lord has been with you. So we said, let there now be an oath between us, even between you and us, and let us make a covenant with you, that you will do us no harm. Just as we have not touched you and have done nothing to you, but good, and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord. Abimelech tries to put him and his people in the best light. They hadn't really sent them away in peace, had they? Telling him that he had to go and then making them move because of the water situation. It was not peaceful. And to claim that they had done nothing but good to them was really, let's be honest here, a lie. God's blessing on Isaac's life is obvious to Abimelech, and Abimelech wants to be on good terms with him now. But now Isaac is convinced of God's goodness. He doesn't need to fight over the past. He extends hospitality to Abimelech and his entourage, and he makes a treaty with them, and he sends them away in peace. Yeah. And God's goodness continues to flow over Isaac. His servants who had begun to dig another well come to Isaac after the guests had left and told him they'd made a surprise discovery. A blessing beyond imagination. They had found more water. The word found here, or translated here, is the same word translated as reaped in verse 12. The Hebrew word, remember, carries the idea of a surprise discovery, something way beyond normal. They were saying that they had discovered a surprising quantity of water. either an underground reservoir or an underground spring. Isaac named the well. Now, this is a bit of a name, so I've got to think and read it slowly. Sheba, which is a bit strange name, which means oath. Beersheba means well of the oath, the place where Isaac had God's oath reconfirmed, and the place where an oath of peace was made with his enemies. Yeah. So what do we say in conclusion to this? Well, the last what we saw Isaac not trusting God, not believing the Lord would be with him, and in fear he put his trust in his own flesh to get the good things that he wanted by falling back into the old family sin that in the end failed miserably. He lost the trust of the Philistines, and they no longer saw him as a man of integrity or honesty. He ruined his testimony, so to speak, and any chance of telling the Philistines about the one true God. That's an interesting perspective that we need to keep hold of. This what we see that Isaac learned from that mistake, and he put trust in the Lord and God's goodness. The good that Isaac desired came to him from God. Isaac gave his fears to God, and God promised, as he had in the past, and began to bless Isaac abundantly. Far more than he even imagined, I'd say. And as the conflict came, Isaac gave it to the Lord and moved on, and the Lord always provided more. Wherever they went, they found water to sustain them and make them fruitful. There's been a big lesson learnt here, isn't there? Isaac learned that God's goodness is limitless. It is endless if you trust him. God was teaching Isaac to trust him. And at the same time, as Jacob watched this transformation in his father's life, God was teaching him that he too could know God's limitless goodness. God was continually showing Jacob his love, which was so great, and the goodness was so certain that he could trust the Lord without fear on into the future. Yeah. Where do we come from with that? How do we express our thankfulness to God? How do we rest in God's willingness to bless us? Isaac's true turning point was when he built an altar. Maybe we need to come to the altar in some way. Maybe we need to go, okay, what do I need to do that shows God the turning point in my life? That's an interesting thought. Where's your altar today? Bless you.